Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about how to organize your research and notes with Zotero. My name is Shelby Lamar. I'm the Associate Director of the Preparing Future Faculty Program here at Claremont Graduate University. I'm also joined by Jonathan Aragon. He's one of our PFF Fellows. He's going to be co-hosting with me. So if you put anything in the chat and I miss it, he might respond or just stop me and let me know what's going on. So, thanks, Jonathan. All right, so just some basic information about today. Feel free to use the chat or unmute yourself for discussion and questions as we go. I don't mind being interrupted. I have turned on the transcription, so if you like to use that function, you can use that. That's usually under the More button and then Live Transcript. Also, this webinar is being recorded. The video will be made available for others to view afterwards, but your name is not going to be on the video and won't be recorded unless you say your name out loud. So you don't have to worry about that. Next. Okay, here's what we're going to cover today, or what I hope to answer for you today. The first is, why should I use Zotero to organize my research and notes? I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because obviously you've come to the webinar, so you might already be a little bit convinced. Second is, how can I use Zotero to organize my research and notes? This is where I'll spend the bulk of my time today. Third, where can I go for more help? I will put some resources in the chat and stuff for you. And then fourth, whatever else you ask me at the end or during the webinar, I will try to answer to the best of my ability. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to do was do a quick poll of everyone so I can get a feel of where you all are. And that way it can inform what I'm going to cover and how much detail really quick. So I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll if you don't mind. Let's see, let me launch the poll. There you go. Let me know if you can't see it, but you should see a little pop-up with 3 questions. Have you ever used reference management software before? If you have used it, was it Zotero? And then 3, if you have used Zotero before, what do you think your skill level is? So just want to get a quick feel for where we're at and see as these numbers come in. I'll share the poll with you if you all are interested. In just a minute. Almost everyone has answered. Just give it a couple more seconds. And all right, I think that's just about everyone. Very quick. Everyone's quick today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and then share the results for you. If you can see it, it is, wow, 50-50. You never see that, or I don't see that often, I should say. So half of people have used Zotero, reference management software before. About 35% of you said, I've used Zotero in particular before. And then most people said they're just kind of fair or good with Zotero. So, okay, that is great information for me. So we're pretty split with the results. So what that tells me is I will not assume you know much and just try and give you all the information that I have. So let's get started here. Why should you use Zotero? And again, stop me at any point if you have questions. So the research I have done gives these reasons for using not just Zotero, but any reference manager. Some people have never heard of Zotero before. Absolutely. It's just one of many. It is a reference management software. So, but what does research say about reference management software? If you use it correctly, you're going to have more accurate citations when you write. You will have or can have better collaboration with colleagues if you're writing a paper together and you use Zotero together. It can really help with that. Facilitating notes and all of those kind of things. It is good for big projects. So if you are writing a dissertation, a master's thesis, a major paper for a conference, all of those things will be great for it. You will save time on switching citation styles for publications. So basically, if one of your publications wants it in Chicago style, but you submit it to a different journal and they want APA, it's very easy to switch styles without having to like redo your whole paper. You will write better literature reviews. This study was actually done on undergrads, but I think it would apply to grad students still. One of the papers says it should definitely be taught to undergrads and graduate students because it is so helpful. And then this is my list of reasons why I think you should use Zotero or at least a reference management software. First, it increases your memory by building a knowledge base that you're going to be able to organize and keep going back to over and over again. It will reinforce your own memory because as you come back to write each new paper or each new project, you're going to be reintroduced to things you've read before, so you'll get to know it even better. It can be great at the culmination of your master's or PhD, especially if you've used it in coursework. You have everything you've ever read in one place. I didn't start using it right at the start of my PhD. I wish I had, but I did get to use it after a few years, and it was really helpful. Data backup. So it will back up all of your notes and all of your sources so you don't lose anything. It also helps you build connections between ideas in your mind. So by categorizing things and building relational notes, which I'll talk to you about in a second, it will help you realize that, oh, this author is talking to this author about this idea. So you can understand how that would be helpful. It'll help you write faster because you can find your notes faster, you can do your citations faster, all of those things. And I think one of the really great things about a reference management software is connecting ideas. So you'll be able to see what all has this particular author written, like what have they covered over their career. For a particular topic, you can see anything that's been written on a particular topic that you've read. You can look at, okay, what is the research on this particular topic over the years? You can make, see everything by year, or you can even create a timeline of things that you have found over a particular time. Is Zotero an online software, or is it one we need to download? Both. You can use it online in a web browser, or it is something that you can download. And it is available for PC or Mac. You can also download it on your phone. I don't know how useful a phone would be, but I think they also have one for iPad. So great question. Conversations, you can put conversations in, or ideas in conversation with each other. Has a great search function and a report function where you can print things out if you prefer to work on paper sometimes. And just really quickly, again, it helps you go faster for your research, your writing, your citation, grading bibliographies, and like building reading lists for quals or group work. Okay, so taking a little step back, this is reference management software kind of spread. As you can see, there are a lot of different options for you to use. Mendeley is very popular. Zotero is very popular. Basically, what do these softwares do? So they can do a wide range of things, but what people frequently use them for is they will put a source into the reference management software. Then when they go to write their paper, they get the citation will automatically populate to the correct style that they've chosen, and it'll keep track of their footnotes. So if you go back and add a footnote later, it'll correct everything so everything lines up. And then at the end of the paper, you can click make a bibliography, and it will just put your whole bibliography at the end of the paper. So all of that time spent writing citations and bibliographies are saved. But that's only the start of the software, to be honest. I think using a reference management software system to store your notes and all of your ideas about papers makes it where you're going to one place to store all of your academic ideas in a way. And this can be really useful because you're not searching through all of your, different folders. Did I already read that paper? Oh, I'm going to download it again. And then you find out, 20 minutes in, I think I already read this paper. It prevents all of that duplication of effort. And normally use two browsers. Can I use Zotero when switching among browsers? You can, I believe. You should be able to. Yeah. I think Zotero works best on Firefox, but I think you can use it on Chrome as well. Probably depends on which one. I don't know if it actually works on the Safari. I would have to check on that question. Okay. So I know that was a lot really quickly because I'm going to leave plenty of time for actually showing you things. Any questions up till this point? And let me clarify. So I'm going to show you how to organize your notes and your research in Zotero. I'm not actually going to show you today how to do citations or bibliographies. Oh, it does work on Safari. Yes, great. Thank you, Douglas. I'm not going to actually show you the nitty and gritty of that, but there's tons of videos on how to use the citations and bibliographies in like YouTube or written down. What they don't cover as much is what does this actually look like in practice when you're really wanting to use this in a robust way. And so I'm trying to fill that hole a little bit. So thank you for jumping in, everyone. Okay, any questions? All right. Can we migrate info from one management software to another, or do they not speak to other? This is a great question. So yes, with a caveat, right? Of if you start out in Mendeley and then you decide to go to Zotero, you can move references and you can do EndNote and other things like that. However, the migration is never perfect. And so I really suggest whichever one you decide to use. And the things I'm showing you today can be used in other reference management systems. But I would suggest you stick to one. And that leads me into the next point of why use Zotero in particular. It is free and open source, so you will never have to pay for Zotero. It works with Word, Google Docs, LibreOffice. I'm sure there's more things, but these are the most common ones. It has cloud storage to back up everything, or you can use local storage if you prefer. If you want extra cloud storage, like say you're a power user and you've used all the free storage, it's really inexpensive if you want to pay extra. It took me several years of using Zotero before I decided to go to like the first level of extra cloud storage. But you don't need to. You can use local storage. Like if you have, I think it's like iCloud backup, it can, or any other kind of backup, it can automatically back those things up so you don't have to pay Zotero. But I am really worried all the time about losing data. So I like pay for iCloud storage and Zotero storage. And I think the first tier is $20 for the whole year. So it's really inexpensive. You don't have to switch later. So if you pick, I would really do research if you're concerned about which one you want to go with and make a decision and really stick to it. And I think that's partially why Zotero is so good. It's because you won't have to ever pay or reach a place where you're like, I just can't afford that right now. Some of the other reference management tools are pretty expensive. So I would say Zotero is a great one to use. You can access all of your notes online. Okay, let's do a quick check-in. You can put it in the chat or just call out, what are you thinking about using Zotero for? Are you looking to do like your whole research career? Do you want to start like really organizing all of your notes? Do you want to get it in one place? Are you thinking like, oh, I just want to use this for like for one particular project? Maybe you're thinking, okay, for just, like my grad school master's and I'm not going to touch it again. Like, what are y'all thinking? Dissertation, perfect, big project, dissertation. Yeah, okay. MA, but dissertation. Meta study with colleagues at another institution, that's perfect. You can do group work. I see dissertation. Let's see. Master's thesis and classes. Yes, if you get to start using this in your classes, it's going to be so helpful for your master's thesis. For a journal, perfect. Dissertation. All right. So mainly what I'm hearing from y'all is it's going to be for at least your big dissertation project. Maybe even some other things like research center, entire professional career. Absolutely. Okay, great. That's great. So let's move on to what I'm going to cover. So I'm going to actually leave the slides here in a minute because I actually want to give you a look at what it actually is going to look like, what it's going to feel like. What I'm going to go over is how to use collections, tags, notes, abstracts, how to make sources relate to each other, and how to find things. So I'll come back to this so we can review in a second, but for now, I'm going to actually pull up my Zotero so you can take a quick look about how it looks and how it works. Let's see here. Let me stop and then share my other screen. All right. Can someone confirm that you see the right thing here for me? Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay. So this is my actual Zotero right here. I have opened a new example one so I can play with this and really show you what's going on. But this is a copy of what I used for my qualifying exams. So I am in the humanities. I had my 3 qualifying exams with, I don't even know how many books, a ton of books for each of my questions. I had 3 major exams. As you can see, I had a Bible in the United States, so it was one of my major exams. The Hebrew Bible and the Quran were one of my questions. So anyway, let me give you before I get into how to use collections and all that, let me step back because some of you haven't seen this before and show you what you're looking at. So first, this here in the middle are all of the sources that are currently in this collection. So all of these all look like books. For the Quran, I had more, some papers, things like that. On the left side of the screen, this is where you can see your collections because they kind of are like folders, but I'll explain more in a minute. And then you can see that I have a group library here as an example as well. Then right down here are my tags. So these are the tags that I'm not really visible. Do I need to make this bigger? Is that what, can you all see my mouse and stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. So down here are the tags. And then on the right side is what's going to pop up when you click on something. So it'll tell you all of the information about the particular source that you've clicked on, or it'll go to your notes, tags, or related, and we'll talk about those things in a minute. You have your search function up here at the top. And then these buttons let you add sources. We're not going to go into much detail about that right now, though. Okay, so first, let's see. First, I want to tell you about collections and how those work. So collections they look like folders. I know they look like folders. I called them folders for a long time, but that's not what they are because they work a little bit different. So basically, all of your sources, every source that you've put in here will be in your library. Collections are basically narrowing down or creating a list from your library. So that you want to call attention to or work on. So how I use collections are for projects. I don't use collections for topics necessarily. I use them for projects. So I would have a collection for, my 3 qualifying exams. I would have a collection for my dissertation. You can see here I had a presentation. And so it was for a particular project that I'm using collections for. That's different from tags, which are usually more I use for topics. But how collections work is your sources live in your library. Your collections hold a portion of those, but the collections are temporary. So for instance, if you have a source in one collection, it will always be in your library, but you can have a source in your library that's not in any particular collection. And I could delete this whole Hebrew Bible collection right here, just delete it. Do you see the pop-up? Do you see the delete button? Yes, okay, perfect. Yes. So I could delete this whole collection. All of my sources would remain in the library. So I don't have to worry about accidentally. Now then, if you click delete collection and items, you're going to delete the items from your library. But, you would just hear this is everything in my whole library. This is a group of them that I have pulled out. So for example, let me make one real quick to show you. So let's do a new sub-collection. I'll just leave it untitled. And I decide, okay, so I want to do a new sub-collection of everything on slavery. No, there's not a lot there. Major, hang on. Let's see. Everything I have on Puritans. So what do? I select all of these by just Command A, or you can also just use your, like select Shift and select everything you want. So I'm going to pull all these and just drag them by holding down the mouse button, and I can just pop them right into Untitled. And then there they all are, right? So it's just a portion of what I was looking at, but I just very quickly created a new collection. Now then, I'm going to show you that I can, let's look at one, a political history of the Bible in America. So if I delete this collection, now I'm just going to delete it. And it's like, are you sure you want to delete a collection? Items will not be deleted. So delete, right? But I'm like, okay, wait, there it is. So see, just because you delete it from one thing doesn't mean it's going to be deleted from other. And I know I'm belaboring this point, but it's really important to understand how the collections work so that you can better organize things in your mind. So again, you can delete collections, you can make new ones, move things around very easily. Oh, one thing I did want to mention is a sub collection. So this is a top level one. These are like sub collections for, and this was just for me to organize it so I could open and close, but everything in here will not come up into a like major collection. So what I'm trying to say, these are sub collections, but it's not all going to be included in here. Does that make sense? Like if you make a sub collection, everything is not going to automatically go into your top level folder. All of these folders are just completely separate in Zotero's mind, other than the little nesting function. That's it. So, okay, so I showed you kind of how to make a new one and delete one. If you find something and you're like, say in your, I don't know, let's see. I want to figure out where this is. So I found it in my library. I don't know what collection it's in. If I just hit the option button, you can see that I've got it in my Quran up there, and you can see I've got it in my actual real Quran collection at the bottom there. Because I made this copy, right? So you can see that I've got it in two places there. And so that's just useful if you're trying to find like, where else have I used this source? Okay. Anything else I want to do about collections? Oh, okay. So the main point for collections, these are going to be your projects again. This is where you want to divide projects up so you can easily come back. Now, as you can see on my left, I don't always use them for collections. I mean, for projects. Does it do the tags automatically? I'm going to get to tags in just a minute. It's very important. Yeah. So why make a sub collection? Like I said, how do you tag the words? I'll get to tags in a second, but a sub collection to me, honestly, was just a way to keep everything together. The thing I use a sub collection for most, honestly, is like just to, if I'm breaking up a big project into smaller things, like for, I also use it for an archive just so I don't have to look at things. The only reason really to make a sub collection is just to divide things up a bit. So for your dissertation, I might do chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. So you can really keep track of what you've used in each chapter. And so for smaller things, I don't use sub collections at all, right? Yeah, but good question. So something I do rarely use collections for a topic, for instance. So you can see I have a syllabi collection, and this is really a topic more than a project. But this is syllabi I've collected for one reason or another, and I sometimes go and look at it pretty frequently. So it's just ease of access for me. So, but do think deeply about how you want to organize your projects. But I would use collections for that for sure. Okay. Oh, and then I do use the sub collections for an archive. If I've completed a project, I will frequently just pop it down here so I don't have to look at it anymore. So for instance, this presentation is done, this conference presentation. So I just pop it down here into the archive, pop all that up so I don't have to see it anymore because I get easily distracted, right? Okay, let me pause and take a look here. What is the parent organizational functions between collections and sub-collection? Is it more project-based, project-specific needs? I'm not sure I understand the question completely, but there's not really a ton of organization other than the function of rolling things up to make it look nicer, right? So instead of I could just easily say like, these were all of my exams when it was just more for my mental clarity than for any particular reason. I could have them be on the outside here. I just have a lot of projects going on usually at the same time. So I, try to minimize how much I'm looking at because like I said, I'm easily distracted sometimes. I'm too interested in multiple projects at once. Okay. Who has questions about this? Because this is honestly one of the hardest things about Zotero is understanding how the collections work. Once we pass this, it'll be much easier.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
If you save something, if you like open up a sub collection and you save something into that, does it automatically go into the full library?
Perfect question. Yes. So if you open a collection and that's where you put something in, it automatically goes into the library.
Wow. I was using it completely differently. So this is so helpful.
Okay, great. Yeah, someone has their hand raised.
Yes, Shelby. So really quick, one of the things that I had difficulties with was having, it's like kind of a mess. So when you're in your library to click on the resource and have it go directly to the resource, you have to do this whole thing, changing the URL address, because the one that you save will not go back to the resource because of the way that it connects to whatever library you're using. So it might go to EBSCO, but it doesn't, it doesn't go directly to that resource. You following that question?
Yeah, well, it depends on where you're getting your resource from. So if you are in a library website and you grabbed the citation from there and it gets the DOI link, it will always take you to the correct place. But for instance, if you're grabbing it from like Google Books or Amazon or something like that, yeah, the link is a little weird. So let me show you. Let me see if I can find one that has the DOI link. Actually, I'm going to go to this one. So see, well, that's an article. So usually if you want to open up something, that's the, hang on. Oh, you can't see. Trying to, so that is, sometimes, yes, you do have to fix the link, but I would always suggest finding things in the library and then it will just automatically grab those. Let me share my screen with a library website. Let's see if I can share my Firefox here. Okay, so if you want to grab something from a library, for instance, this is the Zotero plugin. I'm not going to go into detail about how to get this yet, but when you hit that button, if you are on the library website, this is the CGU library website, it should get this particular link, right? So you can see it's the WorldCat link for the CGU library, but there's also another link you can get, and it's a permanent link. Let's see, if you go to, okay, it's not going to show it, probably because it's a book, but sometimes the link is a permanent DOI link. So this is a lot to say, basically. It just depends where you get your source from as to whether the link is going to work well, going exactly where you want. And that is something you have to be careful of, for sure. I don't know if that really answered the question thoroughly, but let me see.
I think sometimes you have to open the reference and somehow copy the link directly from that reference.
Mhm.
There was a few times where I would go and I'd go look for the reference and it was gone. So then I had to copy the title of the reference, go back into the library and then pull it up again. But it still was there. I mean, it was still saved for me. Okay, this is a reference that I wanted to read, and it's still there. So it still works in that regard, but it just, I was wondering if there was an easier way to just kind of make sure all those things copied correctly.
You do, I mean, you do need to manually check that they copy correctly, but I would say that I try and just save the PDF each time so I don't have to keep going back into the library if it's a PDF document, because I like to mark up the PDFs and I just like to have it in case something goes wrong. And, you know, that's kind of the internet, links break and don't work right sometimes. So I would never really rely on links itself. Zotero can save a whole website for you if you want to do it that way. But yeah, that's not necessarily a Zotero problem. That's kind of a reference management problem of getting those things correct. Oh, okay, hang on. I've got questions. Let's see. Okay. If you read a journal but not use it, must you still include the source in Zotero? So you can delete a source from your library. I wouldn't suggest that you do that necessarily because you clicked on it for a certain reason, right? And so you're going to want to use it and it's good to have. But if you decide not to read it, you can delete it from your library. Let me show you how to do that real quick. So if there is something you don't want in your library, you can just right click and say move item to the trash. So this is removing it from your entire library though. I would just remove it from your collection saying like, oh, I'm not going to actually use this one for my Hebrew Bible exam. I'm just going to remove it from collection. Are you sure you want to remove it? Yes, it's gone, but it's still in my library, right? If you really want to move an item from your library completely, you move an item to the trash and it will say, are you sure? You say yes, it'll end up in your trash. And then you can always, I think a trash stays for a particular amount of time, but you can go back and retrieve something if you made a mistake. Something to note is there's not an undo button in Zotero. That is something I wish it did have, but there's no like undo. So if you do something in the trash, it will go to the trash. You can't undo it, but you can go to the trash to pull it out. So, okay. Can you load documents already on your hard drive or in cloud storage? Yep, you can drag and drop things into Zotero. I can kind of show you, I think, I don't know if it'll show up on the share screen, but let's see, here's my slides actually. So I'm just going to drag it onto the screen and then it just pops in right there. And this is a PowerPoint, right? So the PowerPoint just shows up. You can do any kind of file, well, within reason, you can do Word documents, you can do PowerPoints, you can do PDFs, all of those types of things. Okay, but it is 12:35, so let me go on to the tags because I know that is something a lot of people actually wanted to see. Can you drag an entire folder of PDFs? You know, I do not know if you can or not. I can experiment with that really quick. So these aren't PDFs, but here is a folder of Word documents. Can I just drop the whole thing in? It doesn't look like it'll let me drop the folder itself, but if I command all and select all of the documents, it will just drop all of them in there. So yes, you just can't do the folder itself. Okay, all right, let me get back on track. I love answering the questions, but I do want to make sure I cover all the topics. Oh, one last thing about folders is the group library is completely separate from your library. So if you add something from this collection, you want to drag it down here and put it in this library, it's now in this library, but it is not, it is separate from yours. So if I delete something from this library, move it to the trash, that does not affect what is in my library. So those are completely separate. I wanted to make that note for some of you said you were going to do collaborations. Your library and the group library is completely separate. You can drag things back and forth, but as far as deleting goes, they are completely separate. Okay, Let's move into tags real quick, because I think this is one of the most powerful things that Zotero or any reference software does. And your tags live right down here. So how I have mine turned to is to display the tags for whatever collection I'm in. But if I click on my library, you can see all of the tags I use for my library. Now, in my opinion, and a lot of the internets as well, tags should be used for topics and status. So what do I mean by that? So tags can be, for instance, everything on education I have in this collection. I just click it and it shows me everything that has to do with education in this collection. Now I can even drill down. I say like, okay, I see education. What if I also want to see everything on education and Puritans in this collection? Then I can drill down and I can get even more specific. What's education, Puritans, and it also covers Catholicism, right? So then it really drills down into that particular thing. And you can see these are lit up, so it's showing me that I have all three of these picked. If I click it again, it will just undo it, just like that. So tags are really useful for, I like to do topics, right? Or a status. So what I mean by status is, one of the big things about reference management software is, have I read it, the source? Because sometimes I just go on a binge and start adding a ton of sources, doing a big search, right? So you're just going to throw everything in. And then you're like, oh, wait, what have I read? Or what do I have notes on? What have I highlighted? So the statuses I picked are, what do I need to read next? Like most important to read next. What do I have written notes on? And what have I gone through and highlighted? So those are different in my brain. If I've just highlighted a source, it means I've kind of read it, interacted with it, but I haven't written my own notes on it. That's a whole nother level, especially if I'm going back and saying like, okay, what notes do I have on this? It just makes a big difference in my head. I also labeled things for my exam as a major work. So these were the ones that I knew I really needed to reference. I really needed to read deeply. And so I marked those as well. And then, so those were the main, like, or the main status ones that I use. Everything else is usually just like, oh, I did have my advisor picked this book, so I wanted to make sure and read those. A little bit different than major book, but those were the things I was thinking about. So for this exam, I was like, everything that had to do with verse 434, I would do that. So the tags go across collections. So if you tag something in your Hebrew Bible collection, it will stay with your source no matter where your source is moved to. So if, just any tag connected to this is going to stay. So it'll stay in your library, it'll stay with your source. So you don't have to worry about losing tags. So also some of the tag, let me tell you how to make a tag actually. So what you do is you just click on a source and then you see these like up here. This is where you check to make sure all the information is correct. But if you go to tags, you can just hit add example, hit enter, and you have a new tag and you can see that it shows up right here. Now that you can quickly add a bunch of stuff. So if you select several of these, and you can drag it on top of the tag, bam. All of these will now have the example tag as well. Okay, so you can do it if you know a lot of them are going to have it. The other thing to note is that, so for my status tags, I like to assign them a color just to make them stand out a bit. I don't do this for most of my tags, just the ones that really tell me the status, because that's what's important to me. Something else might be important to you. You can rename a tag. So I could rename this tag and every item that is tagged with this will have the new name. Sometimes this is useful, but just know that if you do rename a tag, it'll rename anything that has been tagged with it. And then the other thing is that when you assign a color, this is just kind of for fun, you can, it's called position, but basically it's a way to quickly tag something. You can have up to 9 tags in each library, can have colors assigned, But basically, if you give it a color, you can give it a position. And what that means is instead of having to go hit the add tag button, blah, 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 I can just hit 2 or, and I don't know if you can see, but it's adding the color right there and it's adding the tag back and forth. So I can hit 1, 2, 3. It'll have all of those tags, or just remove it just like that. Yes, I really think, yes, that the tags is one of the strongest ways to use Zotero. That's why I really make sure people understand the difference between collection and tags. Tags should be your topic or the status of the source, and the collection should be the particular project you're working on so you can focus on that list that you're working on. Okay. Now that this is the next important thing with tags is to make tags useful, you have to make sure that you have auto tags turned off. Now, I took a screenshot because I don't think you can see my preferences, but when you go to your Zotero preferences, you have to make sure that this is unclicked. Otherwise, you are going to get a ton of junk keywords that don't make sense to yourself, right? And it's just randomly pulled from like different places what tags they're going to choose. So I always make sure that this is not clicked so that you can take full control over your tags. I have seen a lot of people try and use these auto tags, and then it makes it where you have way too many tags. They don't make sense. So that's a major point to remember, is that this should be unclicked. And also you can, if you have used this already and it's already made auto tags, I would honestly maybe just go through and delete all of the auto tags, or just delete all of your tags and start over so it's less confusing. Can you still revive? Yes, and Jonathan answered that. So you can add tags manually, like I just said, you can click that, but I honestly don't think it works very well because it's completely up to the publisher, like, or the library, like what tags they put in and stuff like that. Yes, this is being recorded and it'll be on our website for you to access later. It might take a day or two for us to process it though. Okay, let's talk really quickly about notes, and then that will be the main bulk, and I want to make sure I leave time for questions. So notes. This is the third strongest feature about this is notes. So let's look at something that I want to add notes to. So I don't have notes on this yet. I was going to read it next, it looks like, and I never read it. Let's double click. So if you double click on a PDF, let me go back. There's two kinds of notes. You can add them here, a standalone note or a child note. You can add a child note to any source and then just start typing away. You can hit this button. It will add a citation from Zotero onto this. If you want, I usually just do like page, 20 or whatever as I'm making notes. You can link to anything, and also notes can be tagged as well. So you can click a tag and it will work just like your source can be tagged. But I think the even more useful, not initially useful, but it'll speed you up. So let's say you've double clicked on the PDF, and you can open multiple PDFs here, is open it, and you can go ahead and say you want to remember this portion, pick a color. It will put all your highlights up here. You can click on this and say like, oh, remember to, I don't know, talk about this in chapter 2. And all right, so you've read this whole thing, put your things in, then you come back to your source, right click, say add note from annotations. It will grab everything you've highlighted and put in on the side here. So you can see it has quotes showing you that you actually highlighted this from the document. Here's the page number, and it will show you what I've written, or show me what I've written here, right? Like whatever that was. One of the cool things is you can move your notes around. If you're like, oh, this needs to come first, you can do that. They have all kinds of, functions there. You can highlight things inside your notes if you really want to. So anyway, that's one of the really cool aspects. Standalone note and a child note, right? So a child note belongs to this source. So if I move this source around, these notes, everything you see under here is going to move with it. So if I pop this over to another thing, it says, see how that child note stayed with it. Now a standalone note, when you can see one here, but I'll show you another one. If you make a standalone note, it's just by itself. It's not with anything. You can just say, I have an idea and do blah, blah, blah. It's not connected to any note at all, and you can move it around freely. I also do like task lists sometimes if I'm like, oh, remember to do this next in a particular thing. Are tags different from collection tags? So all tags work exactly the same. So if I went in and tagged this with idea, it would just pull up that. Or if I said, I'm going to add this tag idea, it would pull up both sources and child notes. So they work the same. Okay. Let's see. I think the other thing I wanted to show you was the duplicates. So sometimes you're adding a bunch of stuff and you've added a source like 3 times. Something you just need to regularly go and do is look for a duplicate item. So let's, I'm actually going to duplicate one on purpose really quick. And then Zotero will notice this and be like, hey, you've got 2 of these. And it'll say, look, you added one on, 2020, one on 2020, or in the year 2022, or wait, 2016. Which one do you want to like keep? And it will get rid of the other one. And it'll show you the details just so you can make sure, like maybe one time when you collected it, the details weren't all there. So, and then you merge the 2 items. I'm actually going to keep this as the main one since I don't know what I just did. And then it'll say, okay, you don't have any more duplicates. And this function is in the group libraries too. I wish this webinar was longer. There's so much to cover with this function. Okay. Anything else that's just super vital? Oh, the only other thing that I think you really, really need to know is the search function is very good here. So you can search title, creator, year, field, and tags, or everything. So you can get that through there. You can also sort by creator, year, date, or select your own columns if you like to see the date you added it, or the publisher, publication. Look at all these options you have by journal, language, anything. So you can also sort that way. Okay, that was a lot real quick, but let me just go back to the PowerPoint real quick, make sure that I have, oh yeah, I did cover that. So the main points again, tags are topic or status, collection is a project. Let's see, we didn't go over a couple of those things, but they're not vital, but do turn off auto tags. Let's see, we went over all of that. And again, when you add a source, just make sure it's correct when you do add your source to Zotero. It can be easy to be like, oh, I'm going to do that later, but you will forget. I promise you will forget eventually. So as soon as you add an item to Zotero, go ahead and check that it's correct. It'll just take a couple seconds, and then you know everything that you've added is correct. There are other functions like adding sources to Zotero, how to use the plugins for Word and Google, creating citations and creating a bibliography. I don't have time, unfortunately, to go over all of those right now, but there are a ton of great resources. So speaking of that, the Claremont College's library, you can actually make an appointment with a librarian to go over the ins and outs of Zotero, basically, and they can help you with that, make an appointment. I will put these links real quick in the chat. And why is the creator not the author? I think it's a bigger umbrella. So creator can be editor or author. And so I just like to pick that one. Okay. So Zotero's website, really quick. Oh, I was going to launch a satisfaction survey, and we can keep talking. I just want to make sure that you all see this. So please answer that if you can, just to let me know how I did today. Our next webinar is going to be on rubrics, so please sign up if you would like to see that. Here's some PFF services, more Zotero resources, and then, oh, these are all the references that I used. And I wanted to leave a little bit of time for question and answers, and I'm happy to stay after to answer any questions. I have plenty of time after this. So I'm just going to get out of all of that. Now then, what questions? I know I covered a lot really quickly. These webinars are only an hour, and I'm trying to teach you a whole system, but let's see. I know I've probably missed a lot in the chat, so either call out or put in the chat again, and I'll try and answer everyone's questions.
We had some questions about group folders, importing and exporting.
Okay, so for group folders, they work, folders for groups, they work just like your own library. It's just a separate library. The only other thing that's different is that you can select like a ton of your own sources and just drag them, drop that into the group library, and it will copy those sources so that your group can work on them as well. Let me know if that answers your question. Okay, I know you'll have lots more questions. I can show you things I didn't have time to cover if you want. I can go back and show you how to add citations and things like that. Just let me know.
Yeah, that'd be great. Anything you want to show us would be great.
Okay, great. I will go back and show you how to actually add a source here. I'm going to pull up my actual Firefox here. So to download the plugin for Firefox or for anything, you just go to the Zotero website and they have download plugin. And then what happens is you see this little icon shows up. You can see I also have like Grammarly and ad block on here, but here's Zotero. So once you go to your, you can go to a library, you can go to Amazon, you can go to anything, find something that you want to save. You would click this button. Can you see the little pop-up? It's saying saving to Zotero. Do you see that little button going?
Yes.
Yeah.
We can see.
Awesome. So what that means is, now this is actually, okay. I'm going to share my whole screen. I don't normally do this. Just if I get text messages or something, please ignore it. I'm going to share my whole desktop so you can see what I'm actually working with here. Can you see the whole desktop now? Yeah. Okay. So I don't have to keep switching. Okay. So one thing to note is when you're adding a source, it will add it to whatever you're currently clicked on in Zotero. So to add a source, you have to have the Zotero app open. If you're going to use this function, you can add it manually by hitting this button. You can select a book and just type in example book, right? If you want to do it manually. But if you're going to use the button, just be sure you have yourself clicked where you want it to go. You want to make sure that that's set. And then you'll hit the button and it'll just automatically save there into Bible in the US is where it's going to go. If you want some other options, you can click the down button and say like, oh, wait, I don't want it there. I actually want it here. You can automatically add tags if you want. But I suggest adding the tags in the actual Zotero app because you can't see what tags you actually have here. So anyway, you can hit done and then it shows up. You can see it right here. But now I think I have duplicate items. Nope. Okay, I just added it once. Good. But then I would definitely go back and check all of this information and make sure it's correct. Sometimes I delete some stuff that I just don't think is necessary, but I do think the technology has gotten much better and it can accurately collect most things, especially if it's from a library website, Amazon, Google Books. Those things are pretty good now. Let's see. So what else would you like to see? Does that explain how to easily kind of add it from the browser function? Yeah, okay. You want me to, if you don't call anything out, I'll just keep showing you how to do things. Let me show you how to do a bibliography. So let's say I want to do a bibliography of, oh, this is a lot, but we'll do it. No, I'm just going to select a few of these. If you select a few, right click and then say, I want to create a bibliography from these items. It will give you the option to say, okay, what citation style do you want? And I'm going to say Chicago because that's what I use. And then I'm going to copy it to my clipboard. Okay. And then you can see my notes from the webinar and everything I wanted to cover, which I didn't get to, but that's okay. And then I can just command paste, and the whole bibliography is going to go in correctly. Let me show you. So it's correctly styled. Everything is correct. And it does have those links because that's the option I have turned on. And you can see these are DOI links. This one is not, and this one is not, but they will take you to the right place. But you can turn that off if you don't want to see the links or the style that your particular university has. Now, then, if you just want to do one, you can right click and say, create bibliography from one item. What else? Let's see. You can also generate reports from items. This can be useful if you want to like print this whole thing out. And that can be useful if you use the abstract button a lot and really like summarize it. I don't use this function at all, but you can if you want. What else might you want to know? Here's if you want to attach a link to a website or a copy of a file you already have to something. There's also a magic add. You can add the ISBN of a book. I wonder if I could just randomly put some book in here. Yeah, no. But if you have the ISBN, you can put it in there and it will automatically add the book. Here's an ISBN, but basically you pop it in there. Oh, maybe that's not an ISBN, but anyway, you get the point. What else? Oh, I have some in chat. Thanks, everyone. Okay, RefWorks is good for double checking of the right source on your paper. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Is there anything else that you all would like to see or like to know?
I have a question about types. I sometimes run across an article that's like a paper from a proceedings, but it's not really from a conference, and I'm not sure exactly what type that is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, right? So like, and what she's talking about is the item type here. You usually select what it is so you can get the correct citation style out. This is something that I usually just try and be consistent with. I usually try and pick a journal article for most things, except it can be a conference paper. And sometimes this is just me. I will say something. If I really have no idea how to save something, I will save it as a report. Yes, that's. Do I want to do that? No, let's do it on an example here. Okay, so I'll do it to this one. So I will change it to a report sometimes. Because then it won't give the ISBN and stuff. That's just a personal preference though. And it still has like some options like, the author, title, report type. And I think it's because it has the report type. That's why I like it. For if I just have no idea about what to put there, I can make a note to myself of like, it was a website or whatever. What exactly is, you said it's like a proceedings?
Yeah, I come across documents sometimes that are like part of the proceedings, but I don't think they're conferences. They're like part of like a series of papers like written by the IMF or the World Bank or something. It's like part of a series of different papers, but they're not exactly published in Yeah, right, like a white paper, exactly. I don't know exactly where to put those.
I usually just call those conference papers. That's the closest.
Yeah,
I-
that's what I've been doing too. Okay.
Yeah, because they're not really with a publisher, but they are with kind of a
Organization sort of.
yeah, they're with an
Yeah.
organization, and they're with like sometimes very time-based, like conferences are. So that's why I use them.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate hearing about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Zotero will function the same on a Mac as it will on a PC. Is that correct? As far as I know, yes. I am a PC user, but I believe the app is like exactly the same. It doesn't do anything different between the two. So yeah, I think it will be exactly the same. All right, what else have you all got for me?
Okay, I've got another question. When you're organizing your reading notes, when you read an article, where do you put those? Do you just put them in notes?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I read something, I will literally pull up Zotero, make a child note under that source, and I'll just start typing my notes there. Sometimes if I'm on the fly, or I have been known to do this sometimes, is if I have like a paper notebook and that's what I'm using because I'm not by my computer. I'll either retype the notes into Zotero, or you can even take a picture of your notes and then just attach that to the source too. I've done that too when I was like, oh, I don't want to retype these 5 pages of handwritten notes. I'll just attach it as an image, and my notes are in.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
cool. That's a
Yeah.
great tip. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.